Lieutenant Daniel Torres held the cold coffee in his hand, his eyes lost in the dissipating steam that vanished into the recycled air of the observation lounge. Through the reinforced windows, the planet Athena Prime turned in a slow, majestic dance. Its twin moons bathed the vast agricultural plains in a soft, silver light, the very plains that sustained the colony's 3 million souls. 6 months. That's how long Daniel had been stationed on this orbital defense platform. Every single morning was a carbon copy of the last. He'd check the perimeter sensors, comb through the night shift reports, sip on truly terrible coffee, and watch his home world awaken below. His younger brother, Michael, was down there. Michael had married a brilliant botanist, Rachel, and just 3 months ago, they'd welcomed their first child. Daniel had only managed to see his nephew Nathan twice during brief shore leaves, but the sound of that tiny laugh was etched into his memory. On his workstation, a photo stood as a silent sentinel. It was Michael, holding little Nathan, both of them beaming at the camera. It was the first thing Daniel looked at when his shift began, and the last thing he saw before it ended. It was his reason why. The shriek of the proximity alarm shattered the morning's peace like a pane of glass. The coffee cup slipped from his grasp, clattering and spilling across the polished metal floor. But Daniel was already a blur of motion, sprinting toward the command deck before the dark liquid had even stopped spreading. The corridor lights bled from white to amber, and the station's artificial gravity seemed to intensify as emergency protocols snapped into place. Fellow officers streamed past him, their faces masks of tense adrenaline, the shock of routine broken by the great unknown. When Daniel burst onto the command deck, it was a symphony of controlled chaos. Screens flashed with torrents of data, and every console operator was a low murmur of urgent commands into their headsets. At the center of it all, by the main tactical display, stood Commander Patricia Okoye. Her dark, focused eyes scanned the holographic projection of the space surrounding Athena Prime. "Report," she commanded, her voice sharp, her gaze unwavering. Ensign Robert Yamada from the sensor station replied, his voice betraying a slight tremor. "Commander, we have incoming vessels. They dropped out of FTL at the system's edge about 4 minutes ago. Initial count is 63 ships. Their configurations are unknown. They're moving in formation, heading for the inner system. 63 ships. A knot of ice formed in Daniel's stomach. The entire human military presence in this entire sector amounted to 4 defense platforms like this one, a meager 8 patrol corvettes, and 2 supply frigates. Athena Prime was a young colony, only 12 years old. Its people were farmers, scientists, pioneers, not soldiers. No one had ever anticipated trouble this far out from Earth. Commander Okoye's jaw was a tight line of steel. Broadcast standard first contact protocols. All frequencies. It's possible they're just passing through and don't even know we're here. The communications officer, Lieutenant Priya Malhotra, was a blur of efficiency at her console. Her fingers danced across holographic controls, composing and transmitting the universal greeting. It was a simple message, crafted by Earth's finest linguists and diplomats, designed to convey peace, request identification, and open a channel for communication. Then they waited. The seconds stretched into an eternity. The silent, unknown fleet continued its inexorable approach, maintaining a perfect, unnerving formation. Their ships were colossal, each one dwarfing humanity's largest vessels by a factor of 10. They moved with a predatory grace that defied their immense size, more like leviathans swimming through the void than machines flying through space. "Try again," Okoye ordered, her voice low and tight. "They might be using different communication protocols." Malhotra nodded, her face grim as she adjusted transmission parameters, sending the message again through a new spectrum of frequencies and encodings. Still, there was only silence. The alien ships pressed on, their speed now increasing. Computer projections painted a chilling trajectory, a direct course for Athena Prime. Daniel scrambled to his station, his fingers flying across the console as he ran combat simulations. He didn't need the computer to tell him the results. The numbers were stark, brutal, and utterly unforgiving. Even with perfect execution, with every shot hitting its mark, with every ounce of luck the universe could offer, they couldn't win. The sheer difference in scale was insurmountable. "Commander," Yamada's voice was barely a whisper, laced with dread. "They're charging weapons. I'm detecting massive energy buildups across their entire fleet." The tactical display flared to life, painting red warning indicators across the alien formation. Each ship now pulsed with contained energy, a terrifying amount of power, enough to crack continents or boil oceans. The computer calculated their firing solutions, and the horror crystallized. Every major population center on Athena Prime was in their crosshairs. Commander Okoye stood frozen for 3 heartbeats. Then, with a decisive move, she activated the emergency communication panel, a direct line to the planetary government. Governor Thomas Reeves's weathered face appeared on the screen, etched with confusion. "Commander, what in the world is happening?" "We're getting panic calls. People are seeing something in the sky." Okoye's voice was steady, but her eyes held a storm. "Governor, an alien fleet is approaching the planet. 63 warships. They are not responding to our hails, and they are charging their weapons. You need to initiate evacuation procedures, now." The color drained from Reeves's face. "Evacuate? Commander, we have 3 million people down there. Our transport capacity is 50,000 a day on a good day. It would take weeks to get even a fraction of our people off-world." "Do what you can, sir," Okoye replied, her voice firm. "I'm sending a priority distress signal to Earth Fleet Command right now. Help might be on the way." It was a lie, a sliver of false hope, and they both knew it. Earth was 9 weeks away at top speed. Whatever was about to unfold here at Athena Prime would be over long before any cavalry could arrive. But in a crisis, people needed hope, even if it was hollow. Just then, as the alien fleet entered close-range communications, every screen on the command deck simultaneously lit up with a single chilling image. The face that stared back was insectoid, with huge, multifaceted eyes that scattered the light in deeply disturbing patterns. Sharp mandibles clicked as it spoke, and the translation software struggled to piece together the alien syntax. "I am Hierarch Skethis of the Xylothian Hive Collective. This system falls within territories claimed by the Galactic Concordat. Your species has violated settlement protocols by establishing a colony here. The Concordat Council has authorized immediate sterilization of unauthorized settlements. You have 1 standard rotation to remove all military assets from orbital space. Civilian populations will be processed according to Concordat regulations." The transmission cut out. The silence that followed was heavier than any sound. "Processed." The word hung in the air like a death sentence. Daniel looked at Commander Okoye, his own profound horror mirrored in her eyes. "What does processed mean?" Malhotra asked, her voice barely audible. No one needed to answer. They all knew. They had just witnessed humanity's first contact with an intelligent alien species, and it wasn't a handshake. It was a declaration of genocide, delivered with the cold, detached efficiency of a bureaucrat. The galaxy wasn't empty, and it certainly wasn't friendly. Somewhere out there, in the vast, silent darkness between the stars, other civilizations had risen, drawn lines in the sand, and built empires. Humanity, in its innocent exploration, had just stumbled into their backyard. And now, the price for that trespass was about to be paid in blood. The evacuation started just minutes after the governor's broadcast, but it was too late. Chaos was already winning. Through the platform's surveillance feeds, I watched our world descend into madness. Spaceports across Athena Prime were drowning in people, a sea of desperation. Parents held their kids high, shoving through the crowds, all of them fighting for a handful of spots on the shuttles. I saw fights break out over a single seat on ships that could only carry a few dozen, while thousands more pressed in from behind. And Michael called. His face, streaked with sweat and dust, filled my screen. Behind him, Rachel clutched our baby nephew, Nathan, to her chest. The little guy was screaming, lost in the noise and confusion. They were at Port Henderson, trapped in a mob of over 10,000 people, all trying to get onto one of 3 cargo haulers. "Danny, we can't get through," Michael yelled over the roar. "They're only taking essential personnel, and kids under 2. Rachel and Nathan might get on, but they won't take me. They won't take most of us." My throat went dry. "Get them on that ship, Michael. Just do it." "I'm not leaving them," he shot back. That stubborn tone. It was our father's iron will, the same thing that made our family so damn frustrating and so damn admirable. "I'm not leaving my family." Rachel leaned into the frame, tears carving paths through the grime on her face. "We stay together," she said, her voice shaking but firm. "If we can't all go, then we stay. That's final." And then the transmission died. The crowd surged, and they were gone. I just stared at the blank screen, a helpless, burning rage building inside me. I slammed my fist against the console, the pain that shot through my knuckles barely registering. Commander Okoye came up beside me, her hand resting on my shoulder. A quiet gesture of support in a world falling apart. "Your brother?" she asked. "He won't leave without his family. And they won't take all of them." She nodded slowly, a deep sadness in her eyes. I knew she had 3 daughters down there on the surface. Her ex-husband had taken them camping on the southern continent just last week. She hadn't been able to reach them. The comms were collapsing under the weight of 1,000,000 panicked calls. "We need to buy them time," she said, her voice quiet but intense. "Even a few more hours could save thousands." I looked at her shocked. "Commander, you saw the projections. We can't fight that fleet. It's suicide." "I know," she replied. "But we can make them think we'll try. We can park our platforms right between them and the planet. We can make them hesitate. Make them wonder if we have a trick up our sleeve. If we delay them for just 1 hour, that's another hour for evacuation shuttles to get away." She was right. It was a suicide mission. But the alternative was dying while running. We could die for nothing, or we could die for something. It wasn't really a choice. Commander Okoye returned to the command center and opened a channel to the other 3 defense platforms and our 8 patrol corvettes. The screens filled with faces I knew. Men and women I'd trained with, shared meals with, laughed with during the long, quiet months when this was just a peaceful corner of space. "This is Commander Okoye," she began, her voice steady. "You've all seen the situation. The Xylothian fleet outguns us by every measure. If we engage, we will lose. But if we position ourselves between them and the planet, we might buy the evacuation some more time." Captain Weston of Defense Platform Delta spoke first. He was one of the oldest officers in the system. "Commander, they'll tear through us like we're not even here. We won't last 5 minutes." "I know, James," Okoye said. "That's why this isn't an order. I'm asking for volunteers. Anyone who wants to take their ship and run for the edge of the system. You have my authorization. No one will blame you for living to fight another day." Silence. On every screen, I saw the same internal battle. Fear against duty. The instinct to survive against the hope of saving those millions of people below. Then, Lieutenant Devin Clark, a kid fresh from the academy, broke the silence. "My crew votes to stay. We'll buy them whatever time we can." And just like that, the dam broke. One by one, every other ship reported in. Every platform. Every corvette. They all chose to stay. Some voices cracked with fear, but not one of them wavered. We would be the shield. We would stand between our home and the fire, even if it was the last thing we ever did. 6 hours later, the Xylothian fleet reached their firing position. They hadn't rushed. They moved with the cold, arrogant confidence of a predator that knows its prey can't escape. Their leader, Hyrox Skethis, transmitted again. The rotation has elapsed. Your military vessels remain. This constitutes resistance. You will be disabled. Commander Okoye opened a return channel, her hands trembling slightly, but her voice was pure steel. This is Commander Patricia Okoye of the United Earth Defense Force. We reject your authority. We claimed this system legally. We will not abandon our people. The alien's mandibles clicked. It might have been a laugh. Your ignorance is not relevant. This territory was marked for Concordat expansion 47,000 rotations ago. The law is clear. Then your law is unjust, Okoye retorted. Justice is the prerogative of the strong, Skethis replied. You are weak. Your opinion is meaningless. The transmission cut. The alien fleet surged forward. Energy readings on my console went off the charts. Every one of their ships was now a planet killer. I sat at my station, my hands flying across the controls, assigning firing priorities, knowing it was useless. Around me, I could hear my crewmates making their last calls, leaving messages that might never be heard. I thought about recording something for Michael, Rachel, and Nathan. But what could I say? That I was sorry? That I loved them? They knew. Words felt so small. The first shots came from the Xylothian flagship. Beams of pure energy, moving at the speed of light. Impossible to dodge. They hit Defense Platform Alpha. Its shields flared a brilliant blue, held for maybe 2 seconds, and then collapsed. The hull underneath glowed white-hot before it started to tear apart. 347 people. Gone. I knew most of them. Sarah Chun from Sensors. Marcus Wright from Engineering, the kid who played guitar in the mess hall. Commander Bradford, the man who got me into the officer program. The platform's reactor went critical. For a second, the explosion was brighter than the sun. We returned fire. Everything we had. Missiles, railguns, energy cannons. Our shots splashed against their shields like rain against a window. Nothing got through. A second volley from the aliens vaporized 2 of our corvettes. A third took out Platform Gamma. It wasn't a battle. It was an execution. It lasted 11 minutes. In the end, every human ship was either destroyed or a crippled, floating wreck. My platform was one of the lucky ones. We were dead in the water, but structurally intact. Emergency lights bathed everything in a blood-red glow. Commander Okoye floated near the command station, a gash on her forehead bleeding freely. She looked at me, her voice weak. Did we buy them enough time? I checked the few systems still working. Comms were gone, but I could access some of the sensor logs from before the fight. The evacuation ships had kept launching, right through the chaos. The final logs showed maybe 80,000 people had escaped. 80,000 out of 3 million. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. But it was something. It had to be. The Xylothian fleet moved into its final position above Athena Prime. Their movements were methodical, precise the way an executioner performs a task they have done many times before. Their weapons, still hot from destroying the human defense force, were now angled down, pointed at the planet's surface. A single final message was broadcast across all frequencies, so that every person on the dying world would hear their doom pronounced. Unauthorized settlement. Complete sterilization authorized. May your atoms serve the Concordat better than your lives. I was floating in the darkened command deck of my crippled platform, strapped into my chair to keep from drifting in the zero gravity. Through the cracked viewport, I could see Athena Prime rotating peacefully below. The people there were completely unaware that in just a few moments, the entire surface would be scoured clean of all life. 3 million people were living out their final minutes. Some were still trying to reach the spaceports in a desperate, futile attempt to escape. Others had gathered with their loved ones, holding them close. Many were simply watching the sky, waiting for the end. My comm system crackled with static, then cleared just enough for voices to come through. The planetary emergency channel was still active. People were using it to say goodbye. I heard a father singing a lullaby to his daughter. I heard two elderly people who had been married for 60 years tell each other one last time that their life together had been beautiful. A young woman was reading poetry to anyone who would listen, her voice calm and clear despite everything. Then a voice cut through the noise, one I knew better than my own. "Michael, Danny, if you're still alive up there, I want you to know something. Rachel, Nathan, and me. We're together at the house. We're in the garden where Nathan took his first steps last week. The sky is clear, and we can see the stars. It's actually pretty peaceful down here. Don't carry any guilt about this, brother. You tried. Everyone tried. Sometimes trying isn't enough, and that's not your fault." Rachel's voice joined his, softer but just as steady. "Tell Earth what happened here, Daniel. Tell them that we lived well, that we built something beautiful on this world. Tell them not to let our deaths be meaningless. Tell them to remember Athena Prime." In the background, I heard a small sound. It was Nathan, the happy gurgle of a baby who couldn't understand that the light growing brighter in the sky meant death was coming. Michael laughed, a genuine sound of joy, despite it all. "He's smiling, Danny. Right at the end, he's smiling at his mom. Kids are amazing, aren't they?" I tried to respond, but my voice caught in my throat. Tears floated in front of my face in the zero gravity, tiny spheres of salt water refracting the light from the planet below. I wanted to tell Michael that I loved him, that I was so proud of the man my little brother had become, that Rachel was perfect for him, and that Nathan would have grown up to be extraordinary. But the words wouldn't come. The Xylothian bombardment began at the exact moment their leader had indicated. Energy beams, each one carrying more destructive force than every nuclear weapon humanity had ever built, struck the planet's surface in carefully calculated patterns. Cities vanished in microseconds, transformed from living communities into expanding clouds of plasma. The oceans began to boil, sending massive plumes of steam into the atmosphere. The continental plates cracked under the thermal stress, and volcanoes erupted as the planet's crust was systematically shattered. Michael's transmission cut out mid-sentence. One moment I could hear my brother's voice, steady and calm and so very human. The next moment, there was only static. I knew with absolute certainty that Michael, Rachel, and Nathan no longer existed. They had been converted to their component atoms, scattered across a planet that was rapidly becoming an uninhabitable hellscape. 3 million people died in 18 minutes. The Xylothian fleet worked with industrial efficiency, ensuring complete coverage of the planet's surface. They left no region untouched, no valley or island or polar ice cap. By the time they finished, Athena Prime glowed red-hot from pole to pole. Its atmosphere was stripped away, its surface turned to molten slag that would take centuries to cool. Commander Okoye had drifted close enough to see my face in the emergency lighting. Her own eyes were wet, but her expression had hardened into something cold and focused. "Record everything," she said quietly. "Every sensor log, every communication, every piece of data we have. We're still alive, which means they want witnesses. They want us to carry this story back to Earth. They want humanity to know what happens when you violate Concordat law." I nodded, my body moving on autopilot. My hands flew across the controls, compiling all surviving data into a compressed package. My mind felt detached, operating on training and muscle memory, while my soul tried to process the sheer magnitude of what I had just witnessed. The Xylothian fleet departed without another word. They left us, the survivors, floating in our damaged ships, left us to contemplate the burning world below. left us to carry the message back to Earth that humanity was small and weak and unwelcome in a galaxy ruled by ancient powers who measured time in geological epochs and measured lives not at all. A rescue ship arrived 3 days later. They found me and Commander Okoye, along with 63 other survivors scattered across the wreckage. The physical rescue was straightforward, but the captain of the rescue vessel, Linda Vasquez, looked into our eyes and understood that some wounds go much deeper than flesh. The journey back to Earth took 9 weeks. I spent most of that time in my quarters, reviewing the sensor logs over and over again, watching my brother's world die in high definition from every possible angle. I memorized every detail, burning it into my memory with the intensity of religious devotion. This would not be forgotten. This could not be forgotten. When we finally reached the Sol system, the data package was transmitted ahead of our arrival. By the time our ship docked at Luna Station, every human being in the solar system had seen what happened at Athena Prime. The footage played on every screen, every news feed, every public display. People gathered in the streets of every city on Earth, watching in silence as an alien fleet casually murdered 3 million colonists for the crime of settling on a world they did not know was claimed. The reaction was not what the Xylothians expected. They wanted fear. They wanted submission. They wanted humanity to retreat to its home system and never venture out again. What they got instead was rage. Cold, calculated, focused rage that burned with the intensity of a star's core. Admiral Christine Okafor, Supreme Commander of Earth's United Defense Force, stood before the emergency session of the World Parliament. Her voice carried across the chamber, broadcast to every human settlement. The Concordat believes we are weak. They believe we will accept this atrocity and crawl back to Earth with our tails between our legs. They believe that killing 3 million of our people will teach us to know our place in their galaxy. She paused, letting the words sink in. They are wrong. Humanity did not crawl out of caves and build civilization by accepting the rules others imposed on us. We did not conquer disease. We did not end war among ourselves. We did not reach for the stars by bowing to those who claimed superiority. The Xylothians have taught us a valuable lesson today, but not the one they intended. They have taught us that the galaxy is not ruled by justice or law or morality. It is ruled by force. Very well. If force is the only language the Concordat understands, then we will learn to speak it fluently. The chamber erupted. Within hours, the World Parliament had passed the Emergency Defense Act with unanimous support. Every resource of human civilization would be redirected toward a single goal, building a military force capable of making the galaxy's ancient powers regret what they had done at Athena Prime. I stood in the observation gallery, watching the proceedings with Commander Okoye beside me. We had been called to testify, had told our stories. Now we just watched as humanity made the decision to go to war with powers that had ruled the galaxy for millennia. Do you think we can win? Okoye asked quietly. I thought about Michael's smile, about Rachel's steady voice, about Nathan's happy gurgle in those final moments. I thought about 3 million people who had committed no crime except wanting to build new lives among the stars. I thought about Hierarch Skethis casually ordering their deaths as if it were just filing paperwork. I don't know if we can win, I said finally, but I know we can make them pay. I know we can make them remember that humanity doesn't forgive genocide. I know we can make them understand that killing 3 million of us was the biggest mistake the Concordat ever made. Outside the windows, construction crews were already beginning work on massive new shipyards. Factories were retooling to produce weapons. An entire civilization was transforming itself into a weapon, and that weapon had a single target. The galaxy had laughed at humanity, had dismissed us as primitive newcomers. Now humanity would teach the galaxy a lesson in return. We would teach them about our determination, about the fury of a species that protects its own, about what happens when you mistake patience for weakness. The fire that consumed Athena Prime had not been extinguished. It had simply moved into the hearts of every human, and it would burn until justice was done, or until humanity itself was extinct. There would be no surrender, no retreat, no forgiveness. The Concordat had wanted to make an example of Athena Prime. They had succeeded beyond their wildest nightmares. They had given humanity a reason to unite, a cause to fight for, and an enemy that deserved no mercy. In the years to come, the galaxy would learn what humanity has always known, that the most dangerous creature in existence is not the strongest, or the fastest, or the most advanced. The most dangerous creature is the one that has lost everything and has nothing left to lose.